Hi, I'm Warren, and welcome back to this intermediate Power BI course. We're now going to look at creating the visuals for our dashboard. So the most difficult part in Power BI is actually the data modeling. So importing the data, doing any kind of transformation on the data, defining the relationships, and then creating the measures to measure what you want to measure in your data, so all your KPIs. The actual visualizations are just dragging and dropping. So you want to make sure that you pick the best visual to explain the measure that you're trying to show. And what we'll do in this, we will go through different examples. Again, you can choose whatever visuals you want that makes sense to you and that makes sense to the end user and explain what you're trying to show them in the clearest fashion. So normally, an example, if you are showing a timeline, you would have that across the bottom of your visual. If you are showing categories, you would show them in a graph like this, having it on that axis. So that's just a small tip. You always have timelines on the bottom axis, and you have your categories on the left-hand or right-hand side of your graph. So you wouldn't have, these on your bottom axis. But we can have a look at examples of that as we go through it. So we're going to do different types of visuals, and we're going to have a look and see how we can add. We don't have targets or budgets in our data, but we're going to show how we could add, some kind of target line. Maybe we're measuring against average, minimum, maximum, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to touch on in this video. So let's go back to our desktop file. So the first visual we want to show is our total sales by year and month. So a good practice tip is to start with a table first and then convert that table into the visual you want. The reason for that is it's sometimes easier to validate your data in a table, check that everything makes logical sense and looks correct, and then convert it into the visual that you're wanting to look at. So if we want to do sales by year and month, we're always going to pull our date and time metrics or fields from our date table. So we're going to go and we're going to grab year. Do we have a year in this? We've got calendar year. There we go. And we want year and month. So let's go and have a look and see if we have year and month number. So we have our calendar year and we have our year and month number, and we want to look at total sales. So we're having a look at that. It looks correct. It's pulling things through. That is our correct total, 14 million. It doesn't look too bad. And that, as I was explaining, maybe a line chart would be a good way to look at that. Here, what it's done, it's gone and thrown the fields that it thinks into the different options here. Most times you're going to go back and just correct that. So let's just format this here. We don't want the year and month as a legend, definitely not. So as I was explaining, normally when you're showing a result over time, you want your year and month to be at the bottom in the x-axis here. If you are showing a category, it's often best practice to not have it on the x-axis, but to have it on the y-axis. And I'll show you what I mean as we get to these different things. But here we want year and month to be on the x-axis too. And the reason for that is this is going to be an interactive visual. So here we're looking, we want the ability to be able to drill into this visual. So here we can see that from our 2022 year to 2023, are we going down? We're not through the full year yet. But now what we can do, we can use these icons here to drill down. So here we can see both years going across. We need to do a bit of formatting to make this thing look a bit better, but there you can see across the months, here's calendar year 2022 going all the way to 2023. We can drill up, or if we want to see only 2023, we can go down by only 2023 by highlighting that drill into option and then drilling down into 2023. There we can see the 3 months of 2023. For now, we're going to leave it as it is. We can deselect that, and we're just going to have our graph at the top here. So that's total sales by calendar year. Now what we want to do next to it, we want to show unique customer purchases over time. And these, what you would be doing when you're building these reports, you would be bouncing it off your target audience. So you would be building it, you would be touching base with them, seeing, is this what they want to see? Is it the way they want to see it? You would be getting constant feedback. So there would be many iterations of your reports as you get feedback from your end users. They might come back and say, no, look, we don't want to see it by 2022 and 2023. That adds no value. We only want to see the current year. So then we could do that. They could also filter what they want to see by means of using, the slices and dices. So that's totally up to them. But for this purpose, we'll show everything for now. So we want to go in, we want to create another line chart, and we want to show the unique customer purchases. So again, we go and we grab the visual we want. Often makes sense to do it in a table first. The data we're looking at here is quite straightforward, so I'm not too worried that it isn't correct. So we can go straight into the line visual. Again, we want year, and we want year and month number to drill into below that. And we want to look at unique customer purchases. So we can go and grab that, and we can put that in our chart here. You can just drag and drop it in there. There we go. So you can see the unique purchases over time. What we can do, we can grab this and just widen them because we're only going to have the two here. And there you can see that there. So what we might want to do is add, we don't have a target, but what we might want to do is add a line that we could measure what we're getting against something. So what we can do, you can go to this third option here, and this gives you a constant line. You can add different additional series to your charts. So you can add a constant line, a minimum line, a maximum line, or an average line. So we might want to measure against average. So on average, that's where we're at. We're now performing under average or above average. And if we drill down, you can see this month we were above average, this month we were below average. So we don't have a target line, but we can, for this example, use that as our target line. We might not want that to be blue. We might want to format it. So we can go into the formatting of it. But I think an average line would work for now. If we go here, when you jump between visuals, if you're applying average lines, for instance, between two, if you jump across to this, it'll open up on the same option that you were on the previous one, so they could save a bit of time. So we might want to add a line there. And again, we might say that we want that to be red. So let's go and choose more colors. We'll grab red to have it there. You can also change, do you want it to be a dashed line, a solid line, a dotted line, for instance. I normally just leave it at dashed, and you can add a label if you want. So you could say, an average line label. I'm not going to add a label to it now, but you could add a label if you wanted. You can also add median lines, percentile lines, etc. Here, I want that also to be red. So let's go and make that one red there. And there we have our two target lines, which are we're comparing against average. So if we go up, there you can see year on year, the distinct number of customers has gone up, but total sales has gone down. And we can drill down into each one. Again, we would play with formatting to make this more readable. You never want these to be kind of chopped off like that, but that you can play with the formatting to get that perfect. Let's go and say below here, we want to look at the total sales by product category. So again, we click off the visual, because if we choose a different visual here, it will change this. So we click off, and this we might say we want to go and use a clustered bar chart, for instance. Go and just work on the spacing here, get that there. And here we're going to want our product category. So we grab product category, and we want to look at total sales. So we're going to grab our total sales there. And there we can nicely see our total sales by product category. We're going to want exactly the same by product name. So we can copy and paste that below. We'll need a bit more space for this one because we have more products. And instead of category, we can add product name. We could have both in one and just drill into it, but they've asked to have them in separate visuals because they want to see both without having to drill. So we just take the category out of that one, and there you can see the product name. They've also asked to see total sales by gender, so we can copy and paste this one and move it next to that one there. And all we're going to do is we're going to change product category by gender. So we go to our customer table, we grab gender, and we put gender in there. And then they want total sales by store name. We can copy that one to keep the sizing the same. Move that there. And instead of product name, we're going to put store name. So we go down and we grab our store, and we drop store name in there. And there we can see sales by store. On this side here, they want to see of the different occupations, who buys the most. So a tree map is a really nice visual for that. So we can add a tree map here. And let's go and grab total sales by occupation. So we go to customer and we take occupation. And there you can see the total sales by the different occupations. If you mouse over, it gives you the total sale. So again, if you wanted to filter the report, you could click on an occupation and it would show you, filter all of these by that occupation. And then finally, we want a similar chart to that. Just going to move it down here. Maybe make that a bit bigger. And we want that by age bucket. So again, total sales. We grab our age bucket and we put that in there. So now we can see by age bucket our different sales. So the formatting is not perfect. We might want to, go in and resize some of these to sort out the formatting a bit better, especially when you drill in. You never want, to have titles cut off. But I think that's something that you can play around with. You can go in, you can change the sizing. You might decide that you want to make this one a bit bigger, make these smaller. You can play around with that. But that would be the way we could create our dashboard page. In the next video, we're going to go through creating these other pages. And as you can see, it goes pretty quickly because we're literally dragging and dropping to create it. I'm not going to spend too much time on the formatting. That you can go in, you can go into the formatting options. You can go in and, reduce font sizes and alignments and that kind of thing to get this working perfectly. I'm just going to take you through how we can set up the visuals. So that's great. Hope you're enjoying it so far, and I will see you in the next video.